Most new aquariums fail within the first week, and it's almost always for the same reason because the tank wasn't cycled. So if you're sitting there with a brand new tank, or maybe you just got some fish and you're a little bit nervous, don't worry, you're in the right place because today I'm going to go over what cycling really means, the safest and the fastest ways to do it, what to do if you have fish in the tank, and I'm going to bust some myths that are still going around after all this time. So before you add a single fish, let's make sure your tank is ready for life. So when people say a tank is cycled, they're not meaning just putting some water in the tank and cycling the water around for a week or so. They're talking about an invisible ecosystem that's built inside the tank of bacteria that is processing all the fish waste and making it safe for the fish. So here's a simple version of that. The fish make ammonia. When they make ammonia, then it is processed by one bacteria and turned into nitrite. After the nitrite is processed by another bacteria, it's turned into nitrate. Once it's turned into nitrate, it is removed by water changes or by plants, definitely help take some out. And it could be plants out the top of the tank, it could be plants floating on the surface, or plenty of plants in the tank. The best advice I can give people is plan as heavy as your budget will allow because it will help cycle your tank faster, but more on that a little bit later. Most tanks take anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks for this cycle to take place. Without that cycle present, that harmful ammonia burns gills of fish and it can injure, if not kill them. That's why we need this nitrogen cycle to process it and make the water safe so they're not living in a toxic water environment caused by their own waste. So this is why beginners get in trouble. They add fish to the tank. There isn't any bacteria present, and the fish don't survive. You will hear people talking about why they should buy a hardy fish for the cycle, and they'll help produce ammonia and get the tank cycled. But then you get stuck with a fish you don't want. So I don't really recommend that. And if you have fish in the tank, I'm going to show you how you can do it, speed it up, and keep it safe for the fish. We aren't really fish keepers. We're really bacteria keepers that just happen to have fish. So now that we're up and running, I want to set the temperature around 76 to 78 degrees. This is why I feel it's really important that the heater you buy is adjustable because there's going to be more on that in a little bit, but really need an adjustable heater for multiple reasons in fish keeping. And these set already heaters are usually very notoriously fail and there's no way to really know. I'd recommend spending a little bit more on your heater because it is something that is very, very important and can cause a lot of problems to the tank if it malfunctions. So I'm going to go over the easiest way to do this with no casualties, no worries, way safer, the fishless cycle. So you can either add a Brightwell quick start, I think it's called, or Dr. Tim's has an ammonia starter. And basically you want to dose ammonia to 2 ppm if you have plants or 4 ppm without plants and keep it around that level, not much more ammonia than that. And then we want to make sure that the pH is above 6.4. If your pH is below 6.4, add crushed coral. It'll keep you in the mid sevens. If your pH is above 6.4, don't worry. pH is not a big deal. Plenty of fish and plenty of plants can survive in a wide range of water parameters. Stability is more important than anything. A number that you can easily reproduce over and over is what we're looking for as long as it's above 6.4. Another method is to do ghost feeding, which is adding a little fish food to the tank. Downside to this, it's a little bit slower, and usually you have to wait for that food to rot, and it's really hard to get the ammonia levels to the right amount easily, where just dripping it in, I just find it so much easier to do it that way. And by far, the best method is seeded media, either from another tank, a friend with a healthy tank, some biomedia, a wring out of one of their sponges and just add that into your tank. It's got all that bacteria living in there, feeding off of that. So that's another method. But if that's not available, you can use a bottled bacteria booster. Fritz Turbo Start is a really good one. There are some others out there. Let me hear what your favorite is in the comments below. But either way, whatever you do, the idea is just to build a controlled ammonia source and watch that until that processes into a nitrite and then into a nitrate. And eventually, once we can process 2 ppm of ammonia and process that out in 24 hours, then I'd say your tank is fully cycled. What I really like to see is some algae growth in the tank, and that means that the tank has life. And that is really the important thing, that you know that the tank is ready for fish. So, a few ways that you could speed this up. One is the heater, and this is why an adjustable heater is so important. Bring that tank up with no fish to about 82, 83 degrees, maybe, and that really will speed things up and get them going. I've cycled tanks in 5 days using seeded media and bringing the temperature up, and it be able to process out 2 ppm of ammonia. So, it's really just about what you have on hand. I personally haven't bought a bottle of bacteria in years because I have tanks that I could just seed from one of my other tanks. So get into a fish club and they'll really help you speed up the process. So, like I said before, add real plants. This will absolutely help speed things up because plants actually prefer ammonia over nitrate and they will help process it out. So, is it really the nitrogen cycle if the plant is taking the waste out of it? No, but if the plant is going to make it safe for the fish, hey, bring on the plants, right? One thing that I did learn from this hobby is that patience, it matters. Nothing good happens fast in an aquarium. Give yourself some time for things to turn the right way. So, what if you already have fish in the tank and this happens and it's not your fault? Sometimes fish stores sell fish to people and don't explain this. And yeah, I mean, I get it, but what are we going to do? Let's handle the problem. So, what you do is that we need to get out our test kit. We need to test the water. If we're seeing ammonia or nitrite in the water, then we need to add prime. Prime's added benefit is that beyond it being a dechlorinator, it also binds up that ammonia and it turns into ammonium. And that is not toxic, or as toxic, should I say, to fish. This is still available to the plants and the bacteria to be processed out of the water, but isn't harming the fish. With this being done, the prime is helping give you about 48 hours or so until it's not really going to be doing anything. And you would either have to redose or do a water change to lower that level. So while we're in the fish in cycle, this is called, we really just need to monitor our levels, dose prime or a like product, and make sure that we're keeping it safe for the fish. And if those numbers are climbing and they're not reducing, then you want to change the water. Another thing I'm going to recommend is no food means no ammonia. So at this point, if they're in an ammonia spike, stop feeding. The fish will be fine for days without food. They would rather not have food than be swimming in their own waste. So give the fish a chance by backing off little to no feeding and trying to get that cycle started by adding a bottled bacteria, or find a friend that can give you a ring out of a sponge or an old filter cartridge, anything with some bacteria on it that would help it in your tank. Because you have fish in the tank, I don't recommend raising that temperature up. Again, we want to keep things stable as possible. Stability is the success to every fish tank, not rapid changes. So if there are fish in the tank and we've got a temperature set, let's not change anything. We don't need to stress the fish anymore. And another thing that people think that cleaning the tank can really help it. At this point, I wouldn't even really remove anything from the tank other than if there's any mold buildup on the surface on the bottom of the tank. Obviously, maybe suck that stuff out. But for the most part, no deep cleanings, no scrubbing of the surfaces down. Like I said, we need those surfaces. They're populated with the bacteria. So let's bust a few myths really fast. Just running the tank for a few weeks is cycling it. Like we said before, unless you've tested out and you've seen that ammonia go up and then reduce all the way down, that's not cycled. People say I added water to the tank and there's no ammonia. Yeah, because none's been produced yet. But as soon as they add some fish, that ammonia will spike. No, cycling is not just time, it's actually proving it, because if you let your pH go down below 6.4, or your temperatures are really low and it's going to go much longer and slower, people reporting 8 weeks, 10 weeks plus. But usually there's difficulties going on and inhibiting that bacteria from taking off. And here's another one. Clear water means it's safe water. Nope, the toxins are invisible. We can't see this stuff and we can't see the bacteria. So there's no way you can visually say the tank is doing good. You can't just guess, you have to test. And another one was you only have to cycle it once. This one is mostly true. But large cleanings, filter changes, medications that can reduce the population of bacteria all can result in mini crashes in the tank. And knowing this and how to handle it, not feeding and really taking control, a little bit of booster or something to get it going again, all that information will help you overcome that as fast as possible and keep your fish safe. So while cycling may sound complicated, it really isn't. And do this, and you won't have to go through the heartbreak that most beginners end up going through when they get into this hobby. And if you're setting up your first tank and you're looking for some easy to grow plants, great for a beginner tank, check this video out right here. All different colors. I think you'll like it. If this helped you understand the cycling process and you saw it was good, hit that like button to help some other new fish keepers so they can get through this as fast as possible too. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you on the next one.